Neerja Chandna Peters, and we are here at the main gallery Bikaner house, where my solo exhibition called Rupa Bheda, Secrets of Form, is being exhibited, and the show is it's the last day of the show today. And so let me take you through a walkthrough to the show. The show is curated by Uma Nair, and it began on the 20th of February, and 25th February today is the last day of the show. This is the entrance here, which is a hallway or a passage. So I'm an artist who practices abstraction. I've been practicing abstraction for a decade and a half, and to me art is my way of meditation. And so these forms that are so meditative appear through the play of color and lines in my compositions. The first work here is called Alphabet of Geometry. This is a work on canvas, and it is a mixed media work which has acrylic and archival ink and a little bit of calligraphy on it. We'll talk about the calligraphy later, but these are all works here which are acrylic on canvas. This is called Interiority, and these works here are called Nobility and Sadhaka 4. I love to play with these flat sections of geometry, using color as a tool to convey what I feel as the art to be. For me, art is a way of meditation. This process becomes very contemplative when I start perfecting the outlines, and this process or practice of thinking of what color to put next becomes my seeking of the next. These are again similar works. We did the small works in the hallway because they need lesser viewing distance, and so these are also part of the same series called Alphabet of Geometry. And in fact, this script that I have written here is completely abstract, and it does not have any meaning, and it has a little resemblance to Hindi or Sanskrit or Bangla, as most of the viewers ask me. However, it is purely plain shapes being made into looking like writing, and it is called asemic writing. This particular writing of mine was also cited in a PhD research in Turkey by a professor, and so it is something very unique that I have been doing, and the idea was to increase the joy and the contemplative aspect of the practice, because it slows me down, to bring the drawing over the painting. The process slows me down. It's like a chant. I, of course, use it as a compositional tool, but it becomes like a chant. It needn't have a meaning. We all in India have grown up listening to chants and to mantras, the Gayatri mantra, the Aarti, the Sanskrit shlokas. How many of us really know the meaning? But when we listen to them, they have a devotional feeling that they evoke in us, irrespective of what they mean, And so I used to have this playlist in the morning when I used to get up and play all the devotional songs, which I had collected over a period of time, and I would listen to them very carefully. And then slowly what happened was that I started painting, and these songs were in the background. So from the foreground, these songs came to the background. However, while I was painting, if I didn't play those devotional songs, they became, it felt like there's something amiss. So their presence itself had that effect on me So this is what the writing does. It does evoke a kind of seeking, irrespective of what it means. It feels like a chant. It feels, in fact, not just looking at it, but creating that is my way of increasing that contemplation and thinking to, simulate a kind of calligraphy which is very intricate and time consuming and involves a lot of focus. Now we go to these smaller works here, which I started doing when I was participating in international miniature biennales. In fact, there was one in Timisoara, Romania, which had us send exact dimensions with a scale that 4 inches by 4 inches only. So that was the most, small work that I had done. So after that, it became an interesting thing to sort of bring all the magic in such a small scale, in such a small place. And now we go on here to Shabd Brahm. So the seriousness, of course, you have noticed in all the works, whether they are small or large. It's a serious theme that I am interpreting in my own unique way of geometric abstraction. It is deeply rooted in our Indian philosophy. It is deeply rooted in our scriptures. It is deeply rooted in the way I grew up with a mother who is a philosopher and my father who's an author and writer, in a very academic environment where we were discussing and talking about life, or talking about philosophy of life, talking about religions and spirituality. So I was very much influenced at a very early age by Vivekananda's philosophy, by the search for the Creator, by the Upanishads, the Gita, the Vedas. So all those things had an impact on me, and which is now probably taking the shape of, or maybe subtle hints of that, are forming the foundation of what I'm doing now in a very contemporary expression and a very unique way, which I thought I had dabbled in realistic art. I think it was just for the sake of acquiring the skill of handling the medium and the paints and the brushes. I wouldn't call it part of my art journey. It was a dabbling. It was something that one would learn to sort of gain the confidence, gain your confidence to express your own creativity. So that creativity part of it, I think that journey was mainly through geometry, although I did a few cubist works and a few mixed media works inspired by nature and garden around me. But soon I went into geometry, and then there was no going back. In fact, geometry forms the basis of everything in nature. You go down to the microscopic level, everything is purely geometry. And so Shabd Brahm is the name we give to our Creator. Creator because it is the silent sound out of which everything is born. The Anhat Nad, the Shabd Brahm. Silence is said to be the source or the womb of any sound. So there's a vibration, there's absolute silence, then there's a vibration, and then after that vibration, any sound appears. So these works are, we can go in depth about the philosophy and how we relate the silence to inspiration during creation, and we also relate it to the creation of the world. But I will come to that in the larger works. But before that, I would like to also mention that here we have a beautiful curatorial note, which I think you have written by Uma Nair. So this becomes the entrance of the show, where here we have the Buddha, again from the Alphabet of Geometry series with all the calligraphy, and also Buddha because of the meditative aspect in a very, very abstract way. The title of the show is Rupa Bheda. It was given by Uma Nair when she first visited my studio, and after that she went back home and sent me a message that we will call your show Rupa Bheda because there are secrets of form in it, and Rupa Bheda is the beginning of a shloka from the Rig Veda which describes the 6 limbs of a good art composition, and Rupa Bheda is one of them. Now we go on to these works here, and I love to play with line, color. I love all colors. People ask me what color is your favorite, and I just say I love all colors. There is no preference. There is no color that I don't like. So color to me is what? Color is basically coming from a scientific mind, a person who was really into math and physics. I'm a doctor, as I mention, but I am a doctor by education, and I took an early retirement to pursue art, and of course I have a very scientific, logical thinking and background from which I come, and so I feel that, what was I saying? I was saying about physics and geometry and mathematics. Everything forms the basis of whatever we see in the world. If we have to, it was, I think it was one of the great philosophers who said that the whole universe is made out of a geometric code, and to search for the seeker, we need to go down to that very geometric code. No wonder that these geometric symbols were used to evoke spiritual seeking back then in ancient India, in tantric practices, for example, and many other ancient Indian art that you see. In India, art has been always, in our from the time of our ancient scriptures, it has been a means to connecting to the Godhead. Even the Gita mentions that, the Upanishads mention that, and it was always a way of prayer. Work has also been a way of worship. So these works here are acrylic on canvas or linen with a lot of color handling, where I play with the gradation in color in terms of gradation of their values, saturation, intensity. I also play with the shapes, which could be circle, triangle, square, and I enjoy this challenge of creating an artwork by purely using geometry and nothing else. And color is something that I savor. Thinking of when I do one section, I savor that process of thinking about what color to put where, in which section to go from light to dark, and in which section to go from dark to light. I enjoy the process of selecting those colors. But before I select the colors, I draw the painting. That means I want to say that the initial drawing happens in the beginning, after which I think of not the color, but I think of play of light. I think of how to move the eye on the canvas. Once that is done, and that I do with lots of cups of coffee, talking to the painting, and painting talks to me as well. And then I think of various parts of the canvas, how to play with light on the canvas. Then I build up the colors on my own. And so these works here, this particular work is called The Monk, which was done during the pandemic days, and it is a triptych, a set of 3 canvases. I don't think of the form when I'm painting. I think of light, I think of color, I think of lines, I think of visual appeal, aesthetics, what appeals to me. However, once the painting is completed, I look at it for a couple of days and see what I see in it. And that's how I name it. But surprisingly, the forms that I see always, depict in some way what I was thinking or inspired by during the process. So during COVID days, there was so much sadness, uncertainty, fear around us. But I would be sitting in the garden all day and painting like any monk would be in meditation, unaffected, undistracted by anything that's coming in the media or news. I wouldn't listen to the news. And all my stories on social media during that time had these ambulance sirens in the background and the Sufi music or some devotional music also playing, and I busy painting and perfecting those outlines of my work. Here these works are called the yearning, the sadhaka, the calm. And people have been asking me about whether the work is related to Tantra art, whether I have read Tantra, whether I was inspired by the neo-tantric artists. And as I said, I came from a non-art school background. I did not have the privilege of going to an art school. However, I had the privilege of experiencing life through patient interaction, having the sensibility and sensitivity of a doctor, observing everything that happened around me. All that made me mature enough and also lucky enough to have found my visual language, which is abstract geometry. And it is the deep intellectual aspect of creating, thinking, ideating, and I also write poetry that I enjoy so much about art. And so here we are with another work which is a part of Cosmic Spirit series, and these works are done on handmade paper. They are very monochromatic, and they are with watercolor. This is a different series that I began with charcoal, and we have the charcoal on the other side. If we can focus on top, would you like to, or should we go this way? Okay, so we'll come to the charcoal works later. However, these are one of the latest works of mine. I've been attracted to circles of late. There have been phases when I've been attracted more through triangles. But somehow recently my inclination is towards lines and circles, and how I would look at the painting in my studio with just the drawing and a few sections done, and I would feel that it seems so complete that I don't want to do anything further. I don't want to take the color right from the one margin to the other. Sometimes that minimal look was so complete and so calming that I felt like stopping there. And I feel that when you get this kind of intuition, one should listen to it, because it's something that is coming from above. Art is something that we are blessed with. It is something that we are led into creating. We are just instruments. But there is something that guides us. So when that thing came, I felt like going minimal. And so I have been working on drawings which are minimal, yet very strongly conveying a message. The message is very subtle. Now this work has a different way of strongly conveying a message in the scale, as well as in the colors, the boldness, the contrast and the light that is emanating from these sections, which are so randomly drawn initially, but then these forms were, some of them intentional, some unintentional, some were something that surprised me. And so these things are part of the larger canvases that I do, which also I enjoy equally. It's not that I enjoy drawings more, but yes, drawings take me longer and I enjoy the process. This is another triptych called Open to Light. Open to Light. Earlier we have seen one work which was called Bij. If we read our scriptures, if we read teachings of Aurobindo, the Mother, and the Upanishads, we get to know that our ground of being is actually yearning to be part of the universal, supreme, absolute Creator. And how we connect to that Creator is that we have to be open to receive the divine knowledge, the divine blessings. So I have read somewhere that it has also been compared to an empty clay pot, ready to be receiving the joy. Even in our, if you read tantric texts also, they also have the same philosophy. After all, we are all microcosms, part of the same universal consciousness. Our own self was originally part of the Supreme. It was only because of this Maya that we came to this world, and it's all illusion that we believe that we are separate. So realizing that we are part of the whole is what someone may call the awakening. And the process involves meditation and transcendence. And so this is called Open to Light. It is also related to the concept of union between Shiv and Shakti, union between nature and the Godhead, that is Purush, and Prakriti. So these are basically certain things, that descriptions or metaphors that actually all mean the same. The language varies, the practices vary, but the main thought, which is the truth, the fact, remains the same. These works here are on rice paper. They are very, very intricate, and I thoroughly enjoy making these works. Here I again play with light. However, I use the density of lines, the thickness of lines, and also the angles to compose this work. There is a bit of acrylic paint also in it, but largely they are drawings. Somebody asked me, you call this the journey within, and you have a black center, black circle in the center. So what is that? So it is something that is hidden. It is something that one needs to seek. It is something which is not obvious. That is the journey within. And through process of meditation, which could be anything, you can have any way of meditating. There are so many ways to reach the same goal. For me, I think art became my way. We have some more rice paper works here. Again, from the series Journey Within. These are some of the more recent works. And then we go on to these canvases, which are, again, they were done initially in the 2020 pandemic days, where I had, limited art material, and I didn't want to spend even a day without painting, which was when I started making smaller sections in the canvas, so I take longer to complete a painting. Hope, the central one, was inspired by the colors of the sky, which was so blue during the pandemic because there was no pollution, no traffic, and we had never seen Delhi's sky so blue. I would be sitting in the garden and painting, and I was inspired by these colors. And I called it Hope because we were surviving on hope at that time. And it was also part of the project of Contemporary Ukrainian Art Museum in Ukraine. The project was called Immunity. It was about how artists can make themselves immune to that strange, unprecedented situation like a pandemic. And so once I did that work, I enjoyed using just one color and its gradations and intensities like blue, after which I also did a few more. Some were inspired by the colors of the flowers in my garden. And this one here, particularly called the Divine Rhythm, was one where I thought that if I say that the soul of the painting is in the play of light, and the colors are a tool like the body of the painting, then let me just paint using the soul only. Just let me paint using the play of light. So I removed the color and played with neutrals, shades of grey, black and white in this work, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. There's another work that also is in monochrome. We'll come to that later. It's called Sadhaka. And these works here are called Revelation, Hope, Divine Rhythm, Luminosity. Again, luminosity because I was playing with light, and The Enlightened. These works here, The Awakening, Sadhak, and The Self, these works are the larger canvases. I've done even more larger ones, but this particular work is from 2019. I think it's the only work from 2019 in this show. The others are from 2020. And this was in fact exhibited at Lotus Temple for their bicentenary celebration of the Prophet. And I thoroughly enjoyed seeing the reaction of people from all strata of society, from all age groups and all countries towards this particular work. It was really interesting how, people coming from backgrounds like completely different from our country. And it was a very interesting thing that I found a person, sitting down in front of it like a meditative lotus pose. And it was a foreigner, and I was looking at, so I thought that people got the message even without, me making any figure, or it was just plain abstraction, and which was understood. And this is the most satisfying thing for an artist, I think, that for people to sometimes reveal what the artist was thinking, what was behind the work. Sometimes it surprises and also gives a lot of pleasure that, yes, of course, this is what I wanted to say and it is being heard. So yes, here we are in front of some of the paperworks which are part of the Sacred Signature series in this show. And this is Jagannath, Lord Jagannath, and I wanted to interpret Jagannath and his strength in a very distinctive and in my own abstract way. I didn't want to do something which has already been done. I wanted to create an image which was my own. And so Jagannath happened because of that. And then also Ganesha. Once I did the Jagannaths, I felt that I want to do Ganesha. I must thank, one of these exhibitions which had invited me to create a work on the theme of Jagannath. And that's when I went deeply into reading about Jagannath, and I created this one work after which there was no stopping. And it has been received very well, and people have appreciated. I feel humbled and happy that these works are being liked. And now we go to the other side. This work is called, again from the alphabet of geometry. When I said I started feeling that when the canvas is, not complete, and I felt like stopping, the central part, I usually paint the central axis and the central, shapes earlier than I paint on the sides, and I would feel that they are complete. So I felt that now, how to compose it in a way. So then these works started coming with the central focus, the central fluorescent point of focus and colors, and then neutrals in the background, the subtle, soft background. And then, of course, I use calligraphy, asemic writing as my tool, or as my compositional tool, as well as part of the meditative art practice. So these are the smallest works in this hall, and they are also part of the Cosmic Spirit series. They are made on handmade paper with watercolor, and as I mentioned, I am drawn towards circles these days, and soft, free-flowing, medium, which I want to explore further, and which in fact I began during the pandemic, COVID days. For some reason, there was some repair happening in the house, and me and my daughter were, spending all our day in our bedroom while the construction workers were working. And that was the time when I felt so restricted being in this one single room all day and wanted to break free. And I thought of my paintings, and I said that my colors are also, they are in boundaries. And of course, I enjoy, and I find this ironically liberating to use these boundaries to create a free work of art. But at the same time, those charcoal works were created in that mindset of mine where I wanted to experiment with a little more freedom. And of course, I took over that journey again recently in watercolor. And so this work here is called the Sadhaka, the Trinity. When I call it Trinity, it is open to interpretation, open to whatever one sees in it. I saw 3 figurines when I was looking at it. Of course, the central was a sadhak in meditation. And this is another work where I thought light was the primary thing which I was focusing upon. And I just love to play with these shades of gray, and they have this very different intensity. They are warm grays, and how to make the same gray warm and cool. And so this was not just meditative, but it was also a lot of fun to create, this kind of exploration of color, of one color, which is actually not a color. So yeah, and so we have these, titanium free whites and grays and black here, and that's the work which is called Sadhakas. Thank you very much. It has been really nice sharing the thought process behind the works and sharing all the works with all of you. And thank you, Chorus, for this beautiful opportunity. And I hope that you enjoyed all the videos.